Take your hands off me! Maya Lewis screamed. But the slap came first. Silence filled the station. The officers froze as she straightened her blazer and whispered, "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." No one knew who she was, but they were about to find out. Hit subscribe. The air inside the 12th precinct was thick with arrogance, the kind that comes from power abused for too long. It was supposed to be an ordinary day. Another lineup of complaints ignored, another stack of reports lost, until she walked in. No one noticed her at first. She was dressed simply. Dark blazer, gray slacks, hair neatly tied back. She looked too calm, too composed for the chaos around her. To them, she was just another face. Another civilian wandering into the wrong place at the wrong time. But her eyes, cold, sharp, assessing, moved across every desk, every officer. She wasn't looking around. She was taking inventory. At the far end of the room, Sargent leaned back in his chair, boots on his desk, laughing with two patrolmen. His reputation was as foul as the cigars he smoked. Internal affairs, complaints, brutality charges, bribes swept under the rug. The kind of man who thought the badge gave him immunity. When the woman stepped closer to the front desk, Officer Price looked up lazily. "Can I help you?" the desk sergeant asked. Maya's voice was calm. "I'm here to file a report." He didn't look impressed. "Name?" "Maya Lewis." He froze, just for a second. The name tickled a memory, but he brushed it off. "All right, Miss Lewis, take a seat. Someone will get to you when they can." "I've been waiting for hours already," she said softly. "This can't wait," the sergeant sighed. "Everyone thinks their problem's urgent." Then he leaned back in his chair and smirked. "You people never learn patience." That's when she looked up, slowly. Her gaze met his, sharp and unflinching. "You people?" she repeated. He grinned, sensing the reaction. "Relax, it's just a saying." Her voice didn't rise. "You should watch your words. Sergeant." Something in the way she said it, cool, deliberate, made him sit up. "Excuse me?" Maya took a step closer. "You heard me." The room shifted. A few officers looked up from their desks, sensing tension. Then the sergeant stood, puffing out his chest. "Listen here, lady. I don't know who you think you are. I know exactly who I am," she interrupted. "And soon, so will you," the sergeant's smirk faltered. He leaned forward, voice low. "You threatening me?" "No," she said. "Just warning you." That's when he lost his temper. He slammed his hand on the counter, stood up and barked, "I said sit down!" Maya didn't move. Her eyes didn't even blink. And that calm, that steady, defiant calm, made him snap. Before anyone could react, his hand whipped across her face. Smack! The sound hit harder than the slap itself. Every head turned. Every voice died. Maya stumbled back, her folder dropping to the floor. Papers spilling like fallen feathers. The sergeant froze, realizing what he'd just done. But instead of anger, instead of fear, Maya straightened. Slowly, her hand brushed the red mark on her cheek. Her eyes, dark, burning, met his. Then she said it, quietly, deadly. "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." The sergeant's jaw tightened. "Get her out of here." Two officers hesitated, but orders were orders. They stepped forward. "Don't touch me," she said, voice sharp as glass. They paused. Something in her tone. It didn't sound like a threat. It sounded like authority. Still, one of them grabbed her arm. And that's when she turned. Slow, deliberate, and looked straight into the camera above the desk. The red recording light blinked. She smiled. "Good," she whispered. "That's all I needed." For a moment, nobody understood. Then she picked up her folder, still scattered, still trembling faintly, and walked out the door. No shouting, no protest, just quiet confidence. But as soon as she was gone, chaos erupted. "Should we file a report?" one officer asked. The sergeant waved him off. "No one's gonna care. She's nobody." "Still," the younger officer muttered, "maybe we should check her name." "I said drop it." But that night, they couldn't drop it, because before sunrise, the chief's office was flooded with calls. Reporters, city officials, even the mayor's secretary. Every line had the same question. Who's Maya Lewis? The chief, Arthur Briggs, a hard-nosed man who didn't like surprises, stormed out of his office, demanding answers. What the hell happened at my station? No one spoke, until one trembling officer mumbled, "Sir, there's video." Briggs narrowed his eyes. "Video of what?" The officer hesitated. "The slap, sir. It's gone viral." Briggs froze. "Viral?" He grabbed the nearest computer, clicked the link, and there it was. The clip already had 2 million views. The headline screamed across the screen. "Black woman assaulted in police station." But her last words leave everyone speechless. The video ended right after her whisper. "You just made the biggest mistake of your career." Briggs cursed under his breath. "Who is she?" A young officer scrolled through an email, eyes widening. "Sir, she's on the city's new police reform committee. She's not just a lawyer, she's the deputy investigator sent by the governor's office." Briggs went pale. The sergeant who slapped her, he was still laughing, until he saw the chief's face. "What's going on, sir?" Briggs turned to him slowly. "You idiot, sir! You didn't just slap a lawyer." "Then who—" "You slapped the woman who's here to evaluate me." The sergeant's grin died instantly. Briggs slammed his hand on the desk. "Get her back, now!" But it was too late, because by that afternoon, Maya Lewis was already sitting in the governor's office, with the full footage playing on a wide screen behind her. The governor, an older woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, didn't say a word for a long time. Then she looked up. "You handled yourself well, Maya. Calm, strategic. That's what this department needs." Maya nodded once. "Thank you, ma'am. I didn't plan it, but I'm not letting it go to waste." The governor leaned back, studying her. "What do you want to do?" Maya smiled faintly. "Start at the top." The next morning, the 12th precinct was silent. No jokes, no chatter, no laughter. Every officer sat stiff at their desks, pretending to type while stealing nervous glances at the glass doors, because she was coming back. And when Maya Lewis finally walked in, every head lifted. No folder this time, no trembling, no hesitation, just purpose. Her heels echoed, sharp, deliberate. As the sergeant who'd slapped her froze mid-sentence, he tried to speak, voice cracking. "Ma'am, She raised a hand. Don't. The chief, Arthur Briggs, came rushing out of his office, sweat beading at his temple. Miss Lewis, I sincerely apologize for yesterday. Your men acted exactly how they've been trained to, Maya interrupted. That's the problem, the chief blinked. Trained to? Maya stepped closer, her tone calm but razor-edged. To disrespect, to assume, to react before thinking. Briggs opened his mouth, but she wasn't finished. I didn't come here to accept an apology, Chief. I came to do my job. Briggs frowned. Your job? She reached into her bag and pulled out a thick envelope. Governor's orders. He tore it open and froze. His lips parted. This says that I've been temporarily assigned as interim chief while the investigation proceeds, Maya said smoothly. Every officer in the room went still. The sergeant's face drained of color. Wait, you're our new boss? Maya turned to him slowly, eyes cold, steady. For now, she stepped closer, just enough for him to see his reflection in her eyes. And your suspension begins. Now the room stayed silent. The sergeant didn't move, didn't breathe. Two officers behind him stood, quietly, carefully, and escorted him out. Maya didn't look away. Not once. When the door shut, she turned back to the room. Let me make one thing clear, she said, voice calm but commanding. I don't care how long you've worn that badge. Respect isn't optional. It's the job. No one dared speak. She paced slowly across the floor. You think this department belongs to you, but it belongs to the people outside those doors, the ones who don't feel safe walking in here. Her words landed like hammer strikes. Briggs finally cleared his throat. You're serious about cleaning house? Maya met his eyes. I don't clean houses, Chief. I rebuild them. He stared at her, speechless. Then she said, almost quietly, Now, get me every internal affairs report from the last 5 years. I want to see exactly what you've been hiding. And as she walked into the chief's office, her office now, one thing was clear. The woman they'd slapped yesterday wasn't here for revenge. She was here to change everything. Night fell over the precinct, but Maya's office was still lit. The blinds were half closed, the glow of a single desk lamp spilling across stacks of files. 5 years' worth of reports, complaints, and buried truths. She sat there, eyes sharp, pen tapping against a folder marked Internal, Confidential. Her reflection in the glass looked calm, but inside, the storm was rising. Each file told a story. A teenager beaten during a routine stop. A woman handcuffed for asking questions. A veteran tased in front of his kids. Every report stamped the same way. No further action. Maya whispered under her breath. Not anymore. Then she found it. A file marked in red ink. Case 47B. Suppressed. Her pulse quickened. The name inside made her go still. Sergeant Ronald Decker, the same man who'd slapped her. And below it, a list of accusations. Harassment, assault, bribery, falsified arrests. Signed off. By Chief Arthur Briggs. Maya's jaw tightened. You covered for him, she muttered. Just then, a sound, faint, deliberate, from outside the door. A shadow moved past the frosted glass. She didn't look up. You can come in, Chief. Briggs stepped in, slow, uneasy. "You're working late." "So were you," she said, not glancing away from the file. "Back when you buried these complaints," Briggs froze. "You don't know what you're talking about." She turned the file toward him, the signature glinting under the lamp. "Oh, I know exactly what I'm talking about." He took a step closer, trying to stay calm. "Maya, listen. This department is complicated. Politics, budgets, union pressure. You start digging too deep, and you'll burn this place down." She looked him dead in the eye. "Then maybe it needs to burn," Briggs exhaled, jaw tight. "You think you can fix a system that's older than you? That's not bravery. That's suicide." Maya stood slowly, every movement deliberate. "I've been told that before," she said quietly. "Usually right before the person realized I wasn't bluffing." Briggs stared at her, and for a moment fear flickered behind his eyes. Then he said softly, "You don't know who you're up against." Maya stepped closer, voice cold as steel. "Neither do they." A tense silence filled the room. Briggs finally turned, muttering as he left, "You won't last a week." The door shut behind him, hard. Maya looked down at the files one last time, then opened her laptop and began typing a report. Names, dates, evidence, everything. When she hit send, her words were already on their way to the state attorney's office, and outside the precinct, unseen in the shadows, a black SUV idled, headlights off. A voice inside spoke into a radio. She found the files. A pause. "Do we move now?" A distorted voice replied. "Not yet. Let her think she's winning." The game had just changed, and in the days to come, Maya Lewis would learn that some secrets don't just stay hidden. They fight back. The morning sun broke through the blinds, but the air inside the precinct was heavy, too quiet. Whispers floated through the halls. Phones rang, then stopped mid-call. Something had changed overnight, and Maya could feel it. She stepped out of her office, file in hand, eyes scanning every face. Some looked away, some smirked, and others just watched. Then she saw it. The bulletin board near the main desk. A printed memo, stamped in bold red. Internal Review. Chief Lewis under investigation. Her name, her title, and beneath it, accusations she'd never even heard of. Falsifying reports, intimidation, misuse of authority. The same tactics they'd used for years, now aimed at her. Sergeant Decker leaned against the hallway wall, arms crossed, a cruel smirk twisting his face. "Guess the new chief ain't so perfect after all," he said loud enough for everyone to hear. Maya's eyes locked on his. "Enjoy the spotlight while it lasts, Sergeant. It fades faster than you think." He laughed, but the edge in her voice made him falter. She turned and walked toward her office, only to find two men already waiting inside. Dark suits, badges, internal affairs. "Chief Lewis," one said coolly. "You're to come with us for questioning." Her jaw clenched. "Questioning about what?" "Anonymous reports," the agent said. "Serious ones." Maya crossed her arms. "Anonymous, huh? Let me guess. Came from inside this building?" The man didn't respond. He just gestured to the door. "Let's go." Every officer in the precinct watched as she was escorted out. Decker smiled, whispering to another cop. "Told you she wouldn't last a week." But what none of them saw was the small flash drive Maya slipped into her sleeve before leaving her desk, the one that held every file, every cover-up, every lie. Inside the IA room, the air was colder. A camera blinked red. The agents sat across the table, faces unreadable. One spoke, voice rehearsed. "Chief Lewis, you've been accused of tampering with internal records and threatening officers who refused to cooperate with you." Maya's tone stayed calm. "You mean the ones who were part of the abuse reports I uncovered?" The man shifted in his seat. "We're not here to discuss that." "Of course not," Maya said, leaning forward. "Because if you did, you'd have to explain why half those reports were signed off by Chief Briggs." A pause. A flicker of unease in their eyes. Then the other agent slid a folder across the table. "You're being placed on temporary suspension, pending further investigation." Maya looked down at the folder, then up at them. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. The first agent smirked. "That's not for us to decide." But as Maya stood, she smiled faintly, not in defeat, but in recognition. "You're right," she said. "It's not for you to decide." Because while they were busy silencing her, she knew something they didn't. Her files were already gone, uploaded, copied, sent to the media. By the time they realized what she'd done, the truth would already be public. As she walked out of the building, the weight of the badge in her pocket felt heavier than ever. But so did her resolve. She whispered to herself, "Low, fierce, unbreakable. They tried to bury me, but they forgot who taught them how to dig." By nightfall, headlines would explode across every screen in the city, and the department that tried to destroy Maya Lewis was about to implode from the inside. By dawn, the city was on fire. Not with flames, but truth. Screens across every channel flashed the same headline in bold red. "Leaked files expose systemic abuse inside Metropolitan Police." Sourced from inside the department. Names, dates, body cam footage. Everything Maya had uncovered. Now, in the hands of the public, reporters swarmed the station. Protesters lined the streets. And for the first time in decades, the untouchable precinct wasn't untouchable anymore. Inside, chaos reigned. Officers shouted. Phones rang nonstop. The press hammered the glass doors, demanding statements. Chief Briggs stormed out of his office, face red, voice breaking with fury. "Who did this? Who leaked those files?" Decker pointed toward Maya's empty office. "You know who did this." Briggs slammed his fist on the desk. "Get her in here, now!" But it was already too late. Because while they were scrambling to contain the fallout, Maya Lewis was standing at the city courthouse, surrounded by cameras and microphones. Her voice was steady, her eyes unflinching. "This isn't about revenge," she said. "It's about accountability. The people trusted us, and we betrayed that trust. I won't let that continue, even if it costs me everything." One reporter shouted, "Chief Lewis, are you afraid of retaliation?" Maya looked straight into the lens. "Fear is what keeps corruption alive. I've lived through worse than fear." Back at the precinct, the mayor's office called in a fury. An internal task force was ordered. Federal agents were en route. Decker paced like a caged animal. "She's gonna ruin all of us." Briggs glared at him. "You ruined us when you hit her. You think that slap was just an accident? You woke up a war." And then the sound of doors opening. Agents in dark suits entered, badges flashing. "Arthur Briggs, you're under arrest for obstruction of justice, evidence suppression, and conspiracy to cover up police misconduct." The entire station went silent. Briggs froze, eyes wide. "You can't do this to me. I am this department." One of the agents replied coldly, "Not anymore." As they cuffed him, reporters burst through the doors, flashing cameras, shouting questions. Briggs turned his head just in time to see the news feed on the lobby TV. Maya, standing proud, speaking live. Because no one, not even those with a badge, is above the law. His face drained of color. Outside, people chanted her name. "Maya Lewis! Maya Lewis!" She didn't smile, didn't bask in glory, because she knew the truth. This wasn't victory. It was only the first crack in a wall built over generations, and that wall was finally falling. By nightfall, the mayor officially reinstated her as chief. But when Maya stepped back into the precinct, every eye turned, some in awe, others in fear. She walked past the same desk where she'd once been slapped, paused, and placed her hand on the corner, whispering softly to herself, "You thought I'd stay down, but I rise where you tried to break me." Then she looked up, her voice echoing through the station. "This department doesn't belong to corruption anymore. It belongs to justice." The silence that followed wasn't defiance. It was respect, because every officer there knew. The woman they once mocked now owned the badge they abused. 6 months later, the same chair that once belonged to Chief Briggs sat beneath the morning light. But now it didn't represent fear. It represented change. Maya Lewis sat behind the desk, calm, composed, powerful. Her nameplate read, "Chief M. Lewis, Metropolitan Police." Around her, the walls were bare. No trophies, no plaques, no ego. Just one framed quote hanging behind her. "Power doesn't reveal character. It tests it." She stared at it for a moment, then turned as her new deputy, a young Latina officer named Rosa Delgado, entered with a folder. "Morning, Chief. The Reform Task Force report's ready. We've got a list of officers for retraining and community engagement." Maya nodded. "And the others?" Rosa's expression darkened. "The ones who refused to sign the new ethics pledge? They're gone." "Good," Maya said quietly. "We can't rebuild a system with the same rot inside." She stood, walking to the window, watching the city pulse below. The protests had ended. The walls had new murals, not of badges or flags, but of faces, citizens, children, the people who'd demanded justice and finally got it. Rosa hesitated. "You really think we can change all this, Chief? One department at a time?" Maya smiled faintly, tired but unwavering. "We already have. They just don't know it yet." Then her phone buzzed, a call from the mayor. She let it ring once, twice, then answered. "Yes, Madam Mayor. I'm watching the same headlines you are." A pause. "No, I'm not surprised they're angry. That's what happens when people used to power lose it." She hung up, calm, controlled. Outside her door, officers stood straighter when she passed. No one whispered anymore. No one smirked, because every single one of them knew this wasn't just another chief. This was the woman who turned humiliation into revolution. Later that evening, as the precinct lights dimmed and the city hummed beyond the glass, Maya sat alone for a moment, the silence wrapping around her like a promise kept. She looked down at her badge, the one she'd once thought about throwing away. Then she placed it on the desk, beside the same photo she'd carried since her first day in the academy, her mother in uniform, smiling proudly. "You were right," Maya whispered. "Change takes time, but sometimes it only takes one spark." She closed the file on her desk, stamped with a single word in bold letters. Redeemed. The camera would pull back slowly. Through the glass, through the corridors, through the precinct now alive with new energy. And over the city skyline, Maya's voice would echo softly. You can silence a voice. You can bury the truth, but justice always rises.